Our first question will go to Mrs. Tosin of LSETF, Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. We know you have ladies first. And we have more women here. And we've noticed in the last few years that more funds are targeted at women. And it's making the men folk feel as if what's going on here. So, what funds are available to women, and at what percentage, the payback period, and also when are you going to start with the men's fund? Strictly men fund.
Thank you very much for that question. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Faith Foundation for inviting me here. I'm truly honored. To your second question, there's no men's fund. It's never coming. But I'm happy to say that we have a new fund. But before I start, how many people have heard of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund? How many people? Okay, a good number. Do we have any beneficiaries here? Anyone gotten loan? You? Okay, that's your men's fund. Anybody else? Nobody else. Okay. One person? Oh, two people. I can't see. Okay, that's fantastic. So for those who are not aware, I'll just give you a quick rundown of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. It's a government agency by the Lagos State government, and our mandate is very simple. It's to create jobs. Now, in terms of how we create jobs, we realize that by helping MSMEs, who, as Dr. Felix said, are the engine of growth of any economy, the more MSMEs you help, the more jobs you create in any economy. And that is why our flagship program is our entrepreneurship program. And this is where we provide access to finance to micro, small, and medium businesses. We provide loans from 50,000 naira to 5 million naira at an interest rate of 5% per annum. We have 3 different loan categories. We have a micro loan category where we provide up to 250,000 naira for people that have gone through some sort of training and are looking to start a business. Now, it's for people, say for example, you're a hairstylist, you've gone through some sort of training, you have your certificate, and now you're looking for funding to buy equipment. You can access up to 250,000 naira at 5% for 12 months. The good thing about LSETF is that we require social collateral. What that means is that I'm not asking you for land, death certificates, or any buildings. I'm just asking you for one guarantor if you're applying for the micro loan. We also have a micro enterprise category, which is for existing micro businesses. So if your micro business is already existing, you can access up to 500,000 naira at 5% per annum for 12 months. Now, if you're an SME, I'm not going to go over what that means because Dr. Felix did a fantastic job explaining SME businesses. But if you are an SME, you can access up to 5 million naira at 5% per annum for 3 years. Currently, we've done about 11,500 businesses to the tune of 7 billion naira. But the good thing about LSETF is beyond providing access to finance, we also provide capacity building. So we're also training you on how to run your business, how to manage your business, how to structure your business. We also have an access to market category where we're constantly looking for events such as these where you can exhibit your goods and services locally and internationally. So I'm going to go back to your second question about the Women's Fund. And I am happy to announce that we recently signed a partnership. With Access Bank for a 10 billion naira women's fund. It's called the LSETFW Initiative. Applications are currently open. If you go to lsetf.ng, you can apply to this loan. And this program is only for women. So we're actually doing a drive right now, to get as many women as we can to apply to this program. And I have to encourage the women, because we've seen from our our prior programs that a lot of women do not apply for funding. A lot of women are afraid to take risk. We've also seen that where women businesses can afford a 5 million naira loan, for some reason, they will apply for 500,000 naira. And they will tell you, you know, I don't want any problems. Let me just do this 500,000 and see where it goes. Whereas, where the man's business can only afford a 500,000 naira loan, he will apply for a 5 million naira loan and give you 20 reasons why you should give him this money. So we know that we have to encourage women more, and we believe that the only way we can do this is to be deliberate about it.
But yeah, to your question, I mean, Verad Capital is a private equity fund. We've been around for the last 11 years, and we're pretty agnostic. I think what I should say is what we wouldn't do. We wouldn't do real estate. We think it's a different asset class. We think it's a different beast. We wouldn't do any business involved in gambling because we think that affects the society negatively. We wouldn't do unproven technology. So a lot of times you see something work in the United States and you want to replicate it here, we know it wouldn't work because the two markets are totally different. So I wouldn't touch it until you've done a proof of concept. And I wouldn't do anything involving alcohol because we like to think we're responsible investors. I wouldn't do anything with a division in South Sudan or in Sudan. And that's because of my investors. But I'll do anything else. And just to give a little bit of background, because a lot of the firms here might be startups, you might think private equity doesn't matter to you now. But essentially, a startup today is a potential partner company for Verad 5-10 years from now. And I'll explain what I mean. So like Tosin's firm, you get a 5 million naira loan from her. Doctor's firm, you can get up to, say, 360 million naira from him. And you now grow that business. You grow your business from making revenues of, say, let me take a step back. You grow your business from making revenues of 10 million to 5 billion. At that stage, you want to expand, and to expand, you need 10 billion naira or more. That is when a Verad will come in, right? So if you don't succeed now, 5 years from now, I'll probably run out of a job, right? So it is essential that you succeed now. And more importantly, it's essential you succeed and succeed well. Doctor said some very, very key things that matter. You might think it doesn't matter now, but when your business has grown and you're looking to exit or looking to get a liquidity event, all those things will come back. Things around governance, things around ESG, things around having audited accounts. They are super, super important. I can pay you extra for having those things. It's that important, right? So please, it might be a pain now. It might not make sense now, but just try and do it. Just spend a little bit amount of money, even if you go through the software route, QuickBooks, even if it means you ask your dad's friend to sit on the board of your company to give you insights around governance. These things matter, right? It might not matter now because all you're thinking about is how am I going to pay salaries, how am I going to gain market share, but you'll be surprised if you get those foundations right. It could mean the world to your business. I'll give you another example. So if, for instance, you have a strong board now, and you want to get a contract with Nestle, for instance. If you don't have a board, Nestle might not give you a job because they'll be like, you have no governance, you have no books, we can't touch you. So how is your business going to go from servicing mom and pop shops to servicing a multinational company? It is by having the right governance. So your friends might laugh at you now, right? But I guarantee you, in 18-24 months, you will be the one laughing. Right? So do those things, please. So how would you benefit from a company like Verad? A lot of ways, similar to Doctor as well, but we're a little bit more hands-on. So we would sit on your board, for instance. We would run your financials differently to what a bank would do, with all due respect, sir. So typically what Verad will do is, if you send your forecast out to a bank, you're usually going to send year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. That doesn't work for me. I would ask for monthly numbers because your working capital and your cash flows are different across businesses. So he used an example of a school. So schools make their money termly, right? But even that is different because at the third term, right, which is the last term you get your cash, it's a 5-month period. It's the longest term in the year. So your working capital needs at that period is totally different. So what Verad will do for you is we'll run those numbers together, right? And we tell you like, look, I love your business, but this can't work, right? And in running those numbers together, we can now go to doctor together to say, sir, this is how much we think we need. And we'll make his life easier because he wouldn't have to do all that work all over again. Verad has looked at it, great, it's perfect. So that's what we bring to the table, that level of, being very anal, understanding your business thoroughly. We also help with business development because we call our portfolio companies partner companies. So if, for instance, you produce uniforms, right? I have 2 K-12 schools, 3,500 students that need uniforms, right? So if you allow me to invest in your company, I give you access to that market, right? So access to new markets, we do that very, very well. And also just things around environmental and social and governance. So for instance, in my schools, they use only paper straws rather than plastic straws, right? So in a way, again, to Doctor's point, sustainability, taking care of the environment. And what we also do for you, which is also a good thing, is you have a liquidity event. So I've worked for 10 years, I've slaved, working day and night on this business, and Verad comes and say, look, I value your business at $10 million. I give you $2 million to acquire a 20% piece of your business. All of a sudden, you're a millionaire overnight. Your hard work has paid off. You can send your children to whatever school you want to send them to. You can go for that long vacation, and everybody's happy. So look, I'm not just working for working's sake. I'm working because I know one day a private equity firm is going to come, and I'll sell down a small stake, and I'll make a lot of money. So that also helps a lot of entrepreneurs to understand, look, I'm not just doing this thing for doing sake, but further down the line, I'm going to make a lot of money. So I think those are a few ways we help companies, help entrepreneurs.
Fantastic. And I'm sure Faith alumni are ready to ask a further question, which I'm sure will be available on your website. So could you quickly share your website?
So the website is pretty simple, verad.com, VEROD.com.
VROD.com.
VEROD.
VEROD.com.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Now, back to Dr. Ezeh. We know you go beyond financing, and I've had stories whereby you had to bring in technicians to work on some equipment in Nigeria, and the entrepreneur didn't really need to bear that cost of all those things. You ensure that the business succeeds. You are not just after the profit. Now, $100,000 to $1.5 million, multiplying that by 360 looks like a lot of money. But we can see the perspective that Vero Capital is coming from 10 billion and above. LSETF between 250,000 to 5 million naira. At what point will Gruffin scale up that amount? Because we actually need, I agree that we need micro businesses, we need medium scale, but we need to evolve into an industry. So when?
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, I think there was a point I didn't make.
Okay.
And that's the fact that Growfin as an institution in Nigeria has 2 offices. One in Lagos and another in Port Harcourt. The one in Port Harcourt actually is targeted at at Niger Delta. And that's because the owners of the fund with this boss there insisted that that's how it's going to be. In that fund, we give up to $3 million. Okay? We give up to $3 million. I thought you would have rather asked me why we do not play so much role in equity investment. We wouldn't want to start fighting with him over his clients. But, well, seriously, we do play in that space, but we are very careful. The owners of the fund did say, at no point in time would you invest more than 5% of your fund in startups and as equity. So, like you heard me say, the owners of the fund determines the terms and conditions. So, but an interesting thing is that Growing has raised over $500 million, but none of this is Nigerian. So the question we need to ask is, when will a Nigerian fund come in? We are working on that. I'm pretty sure when we get that, we'll do exactly what you're talking about or what you're expecting us to do. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Ezeh. Then I'll come back to Mrs. Tosin. You've worked with UNDP, United Nations Development Program. Now you are partnering with USADF, United States Africa Foundation. What are the opportunities for faith alumni along that line? In what areas can they benefit either as a VTC, Vocational Training Center, or as entrepreneurs? What things can they position their brands to gain traction with?
Thank you for that question. So the project with UNDP, let me just give you a rundown so that you understand what we're talking about. The project with UNDP was an employability project to train 10,000 Lagosians and place at least 60% of them in jobs. And we identified a few sectors then after we did something that we call industry engagements. Because for us, we don't just want to train, we want to ensure that there is demand and we're training to fill that demand. So we picked a few sectors: construction, entertainment, healthcare, garment making, hospitality, and there's one more. Yeah, I think that's it. Anyway, we picked a few sectors, and what we realized is a lot of employers would rather you pay for an internship before they employ people that you train. We didn't do too badly. At the end of the project, we trained 4,500 people, were trained and certified, and 2,200 of them were placed in jobs. But then we're taking lessons from the UNDP project and ensuring that we don't make the same mistakes with the USADF project. Now, with the USADF project, the training is now a bit longer. With the UNDP project, the longest training was for 3 months. But with the USADF project, is going up to 6 months because we realize that people need more time to master what they're being taught. And also, we're including a mandatory internship that we're actually going to pay for. And the prayer is when we send them to these companies and we pay for this 3 months internship, hopefully they will be so amazing and the company will then decide to retain them. So that way the companies then have more incentive to take these trained individuals off of us. Now, in terms of what your alumni can benefit, we recently closed our RFP process for training partners. I don't know if anybody here applied. Did anyone here apply to be a training partner for the LSETF USADF project? We have to, nobody? Faith, did you? They did? Okay. So we just finished evaluating proposals on Friday, and in the next 2 weeks, you'll be advised of the outcome of your proposal. That's one. So first, we're starting with the training partners. We haven't gotten to the vocational training centers yet, but what I would say is we always do an announcement on social media before we open any application portal or request for any proposal. So I will advise that you follow us on social media. It's LSETF on all platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We also do newspaper publications as well before we start any application process as well. But I have to say that this USADF LSETF project is huge. It's a $10 million project, and the plan is to train 15,000 Lagosians over the next 5 years. So it's 3,000 people per year to be trained and placed in jobs. In terms of the sectors that we're doing renewable energy, we're doing construction, we're doing technology, and we're adding sectors as we go on. So we're still doing industry engagements to find out where the gaps are. The program will be open, it will be flexible, and it would continue changing as much as we can.
And for Verad, what's the percentage on your capital that you're investing, and minimum of how many years do you stay in a business before you exit? Then also, you put in like 10 billion, you mentioned. After how many years, at what percentage increase?
Okay, so typically my sweet spot is to invest about $15 million. I can go down to $5 million if I see that the business is growing and will need more capital later. And now the percentage is a function of the valuation of the business.
Before? Pre-money valuation or post-money valuation?
You do pre and post. The post is a function of how much you raise, right?
Okay.
So if your business is worth $100 million and I bring $10 million, I only get 10%.
Okay.
But if your business is worth $10 million and all that money goes into the business, the pre-money valuation will be 10 million. I bring the 10, the post-money will be 20, so I own 50%
of the business.
Yeah.
Okay.
But a lot of entrepreneurs in Nigeria are always funny about my equity. So we understand that. So there are ways around it. So you can have preference shares, right? Rather than ordinary equity. We can have a structure whereby we say, look, you own, even though I'm bringing in X amount of money, I will still own a lower amount, but I'll have first dibs on distributions, for instance, just to make sure that catch up. And I explain why we do that, right? Essentially, I also have to return money back to my investors, and I've promised them a certain return, right? And the first rule in the industry is if you don't pay the right price, you're playing a catch-up game from the start. So if I overpay for your business, the chances I'm going to make my money back reduce, right? Okay. But there are ways around these things where we structure it. We can do some part of it as a shareholder loan, do a pref structure, you know, so we're very, very, very flexible. Because we understand the operating environment we're in. In other markets, people don't care. This is the value, this is how much you're bringing. They rather own 10% of a $1 billion business than 100% of a $100 million business. But in Nigeria, it doesn't work that way. And we understand it, and we just structure the investment around the nuances that are comfortable for the entrepreneur.
Okay. Thank you. And for Gruffin, we have 3 questions. The first one, interest rate.
That's for me?
Yes.
Yep. We don't shy away from that, so we'll talk about it.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Our interest rate is actually segmented into 2. There's what we call the base rate and what we call risk premium. The base rate is 20.75%. That's the base rate. Now, the risk premium has to do with the perceived risk in the business, and that ranges between 1 and 5. In other words, the lowest you will get will be 21.75%, and the highest will be 25.75%. But let me explain. I have not, since I joined Growthin, seen anybody whose risk premium was put at 4, let alone 5.
Okay.
There has not been any. And as a matter of fact, it used to be, at the time, they were not interested in collateral. Most of them were on 1.5, 2. But since they started voting with the money, and the ability for the entrepreneur to secure the business becomes very, very important. So even though we say we are not asking for 100%, 70%, 60% is fine. But that is what has actually taken it to even 3% that some of the businesses are earning at the moment. Okay. So that answers the interest rate.
Okay, and quickly, okay, go ahead. Then we'll come
just
back
to add to what
again.
Doctor said, I mean, because we see it in the industry now where a lot of people are going for digital credit or microfinance loans, right? He said 25%, but that's annualized. If you go for a microfinance bank, it's going to be 6% a month, multiplied out by 12, right? They're going to be paying over 60% interest. So always think about it on an annual basis. So even for him, because you're an entrepreneur, you might be making money very quickly. You can pay back your loan in 3 months. There are no penalties, sir, right? So you pay back, and that's it. You now realize if you divide that 25% or 21% by 12, right, your monthly interest rate is about 2%. If you can pay back that loan in 6 months, think about it, you're only paying a 12% interest on that loan, right? And it's also coming with all the support Growth is going to give you versus a microfinance bank or a digital credit.
Okay, back to Gruffin. Yeah. There's a question here that do you discriminate?
Sorry?
Does Gruffin discriminate
Against who?
about the state of origin? And the person was specific, Niger Delta, Port Harcourt in particular.
Okay.
Is it a volatile spot for you? You don't want to do SME investment there?
No,
and
no,
what,
no.
if yes, what are the reasons?
No, not at all. Let me throw a little light there, please. You have heard me say that we have two offices. Now, the office in Lagos manages what we call SGB Fund, Small and Growing Businesses Fund. That's situated here in Lagos. And that's for the entire country. Now, the owners of the fund, who themselves set up the office in Port Harcourt, deliberately said this fund is for Niger Delta.
Fantastic.
So, from that point of view, I don't think we're discriminating.
Exactly. And the third question, quickly, how can we partner with Gruffin to increase capacity of these rural farmers, considering we have a project, like finance project of about $500,000 to use in educating farmers? Do you give out grants?
No.
Okay.
We have tried to explain that we don't give grants.
We don't do grants.
No.
Okay. So how do you, for project financing, to educate farmers? And I think, okay.
By the way, first of all, I'm an agriculturist. My very first degree is in agriculture. So,
Okay.
I mean, you should expect me to have love for farmers and agriculture as a whole. But you know what? I know the risk inherent. So the owners of the funds said, you can invest in agriculture only, agribusiness only as backward integration.
Okay.
Okay? Otherwise, it's a no-go area.
It's a no.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. So back to Verad Capital. Equity financing for hydroponics. Is it a good area you'd like to invest funds?
Hydro what?
Hydroponics.
What's that?
That's trying to grow things within like a greenhouse.
Oh yeah, sorry.
And
So
yeah.
I actually don't work on that. Yes. So like growing stuff in a container.
Yes.
I mean, yes, we're very open to that. So yes, we are.
Equity
we would,
financing.
yes, as long as the business is to scale
Yes.
and the governance is right. Yeah, we'll look at it. We're agnostic.
Okay. Another one. How would you invest market-wise in an engineering firm, but the person wasn't specific about the area of engineering?
So if you're into engineering services, we would look at you, but our interest will be in the number of signed contracts that you have. So if you have a service agreement with a number of firms that run into a 2 to 3 year cycle, then you become interesting, right? So for us, engineering or service type businesses, your pipeline is essential. So if you have a small pipeline and you're telling me, look, I have great marketing guys, jobs will come in next month, it doesn't work for me. I need to understand your pipeline, right? So we've looked at a couple of engineering firms where they tell you they're trying to get contracts with NNPC. I'm not going to touch it because they can change the NNPC GMD tomorrow.
Okay.
Right? But if you have a strong pipeline, you have contracts that have been signed up for that will last for 2 to 3 years, then we'll look at you.
Okay, yeah. Fantastic. Back to LSCTF. I think this has been answered. Please just check the website for LSCTF and Verad. So how the conditions to access facility or finance from them or equity funding, it's there on their website. Then my sister was a beneficiary of the last social media training, although she said she didn't get an employment through the program, but she decided to go into business only, to be rejected by the system. I think LSCTF doesn't give out funding or training to the same person. You have to choose one of the windows. I hope I'm right. So it's either you are a beneficiary through training or you get funding for your business. Because we have over 22 million people in Lagos. And when you are double managed, that means someone is losing out of the game. So that answers that. Then why is Access Bank charging a different percentage for the women's loan from Lagos State rather than the 5%? And why not grants rather than loans? Because, we work in a very dynamic environment. And more of what some micro and small businesses actually need are grants, not to put pressure on their cash flow. So, do you have grants at LSCTF?
No, we don't have grants.
Okay. And how soon will you have male grants?
Is that the end of the question?
Yes.
Okay. So let me take the last question. No, we do not have grants.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So let me answer the last question. No, we do not have grants, but for our Lagos Innovates program, which is our program for tech startups and innovation-driven enterprises, we have a program called the Workspace Voucher Program, where we give vouchers for startup founders to go to any of our partner co-working spaces and use it for free. And what that means is once you qualify for the voucher and you take the voucher to any of our partner co-working spaces, they let you use the space. At the end of the month, they send us an invoice and we pay the co-working space directly. So that's the closest thing that we have to a grant. Now, in terms of the Access Bank interest loan, I'm going to be very honest. Yes, it is different. It is at 10%, and I will tell you why. The LSETF loan at 5% is at a loss to the fund. If you look at the cost of that loan, the cost of writing the loan is way more than 5%. And at the end of the day, if you're entering into a partnership, both parties have to be happy. Now, Access Bank is not happy with giving out loans that are below the cost of writing the loan. The truth is, the cost of writing the loan is 10%. That's the honest truth. And because we are trying to increase our reach, it is very important that we go into partnerships with organizations that can help us increase our reach. We can easily stick to our 2 billion naira. But if a partner is coming on board and is willing to give us another 2 billion for us to be able to give so many women funding at 10%, which is still below market rate, I see no reason why we shouldn't take it. I hope that answers your question.
So just to add to Tosin's point, I mean, because Verad, on an individual basis, a couple of us mentor entrepreneurs, and we always advise, never get hooked on grants. Just never do it. Because once you get hooked on grants, you always pray and hope for another grant, right? And what I always tell the people I mentor is, go look at the top 100 companies in the world. How did they start? You rarely see anybody starting off with grants, right? What you can do is form solid, strong interest groups. So I was speaking to a couple of people into renewable energy, and everybody's asking we want our own government intervention, we want some loans. And I tell them, look guys, it's not going to come, right? What you need to do, for instance, is, can we get a fast-track route through Nigerian customs? I will pay my duty, but I want my goods coming out faster rather than waiting for 3 months. Because in the renewable energy space, everything is imported, right? So if I get my products out faster, and I get my products faster to the market, I make money faster, right? That way everybody's happy, right? And I'm not asking for handouts, right? So please, every entrepreneur here, as much as possible, look, if it comes, yes, but don't go looking for it because you get hooked on it. Please, yeah?
Thank you. Now, this is a direct question to Dr. Ezeh and Folabi Esan. It has to do with digital agriculture of business. Then we come back to LSETF to share our final thoughts.
Yes, digital agriculture, if it's primary production, it goes in line with what I said earlier. Okay, we go for secondary agriculture, not primary, secondary production, not primary production. If you digitalize that, the answer is yes, we're interested.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Mr. Esan. Oh. Yes, digital agriculture. Will Verad go into that?
Yes. Again, it's a matter of what is your scale? How quickly are you growing?
Okay.
Right? And are you doing all the other things? Governance, you have accounts, you have a solid management team, you understand your market. If you have offtake agreements, better. So if I know, for instance, there's no supply or demand risk, that works.
It should not be based on hope and prayer.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
As much as we love to hope and pray.
Okay. Now, LSETF, the government is the largest spender. You said you have access to about 25 billion naira from Lagos State government, and you've disbursed just about
Commitment.
Huh?
A commitment.
Commitment. Oh, fantastic. Okay, it's actually a commitment, not that the funds are with LSETF.
Thank you
But
very
you've
much.
disbursed about 9 billion. Okay. The government is the largest spender, and one thing SMEs do not have access to are some petty contracts and some major contracts. And if you've trained people, you've empowered them, they've scaled to an extent, and the government contracts that can actually sustain the business, provide employment and jobs all through the year. I'll come to my sector now. Some of the things being used by Lagos State government in terms of garments and uniforms are not done locally. Many of it are imported, and I'll go to the neighborhood watch. The navy blue polo shirts, the chinos, and all those things are done abroad. So there's a disconnect. Trained, empowered, I don't get access to petty and major contracts. And you share your final thoughts.
Okay, thank you very much for that question, and it is a fantastic question. One of the things that we're doing is working with the PPA to have a set aside for LSETF beneficiaries, because we do recognize that small businesses, micro businesses do not have access to government contract. And it is very important that there's a set aside where they can access government contracts. Beyond that, we have workshops with the PPA, because we realize that a lot of people just don't know who to talk to, don't know how to apply, don't know how to register. And they also feel like if they don't know anybody in the PPA office, then they wouldn't have access to these contracts. So we're constantly doing workshops until we get approval to have a set aside for LSTF beneficiaries. So it's definitely something that we're thinking about. It's in our strategy, it's in the works. We've submitted memos on this. Okay. We've spoken to countless partners in the government about this, and very sure that we will get it approved very soon.
Thank you. Your final thoughts, Vero Capital.
My final thoughts. Look, for everyone here, this is one thing I need us to do. You have a great platform, and people have said a lot of things, right? I'm not going to add to that, but one thing I need you all to do is just be intentional, right? I can't say it enough. Every business I've looked at, and I've been doing this for 10 years now, right? And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. We invested in a company in 2008, GZI Manufacturing. Before that, Nigerians were importing 500 million cans into the country every year. It didn't make any sense. So like you're importing air. 20% of those cans were destroyed. The likes of Nigerian breweries will have to put in orders 26 weeks ahead of time. It was a nightmare. A couple of entrepreneurs came together, and Verad backed them. And in the first 12 months of opening that factory, the company started generating $100 million in revenue, right? Now, these guys were intentional. Unfortunately, they were not Nigerians. They were Israelis, right? But they planned everything to a T, right? They knew exactly what they wanted to do. They knew how they wanted to do it. I don't think it was easy because they were Israelis. I went to 22 banks pitching this deal, saying, look, it's a no-brainer. it makes sense. Only one bank gave us money. I think I can give them a free ad today. It was Fidelity Bank. And because the MD then was project-minded, right? And he loved the way these guys had thought about everything. I was going to the bank with letters of intent from all the brewers saying, look, we'll support these guys. I was going to the bank with partnerships with Rexam, the largest can manufacturer in the world. You'd be surprised if you send an email out to a firm doing what you're currently doing, but they are 10,000 times your size. You're not a threat to them. They will help you. You'll be shocked, right? So just be intentional about everything. So all the things Doctor talked about, if you can get his presentation and do those things, governance, right? Setting up a board, having accounts, right? What am I doing to help the society? You know, all these things might be headaches now, but they are the things that will change your business, right? And I'm not just saying this because I've seen it, I've lived it, I've experienced it. And I keep on looking for new opportunities like that. And I'm hoping this time it won't be Israelis, it won't be Indians, it won't be Germans, it won't be Lebanese guys. Like, look guys, I'm tired, right? I'm looking for Nigerian companies that we can back in Nigeria and will scale, right? So everything you're learning here, just be intentional about it and just do it, okay? That's my final giveaway.
Thank you, Dr. Ezeh.
Thank you. I guess I'll end where I started. I would ask, are you in business? Are you an SME? Have you employed less than 150 persons? Is your total asset base less than $6 million? Is your total annual turnover less than $15 million? Are you certain, can you vouch for yourself as being a man of character and you want to scale? Growing is there for you. By the way, do you know what we often say? While everybody can give you finance, not everybody will give you the type of support we do. And that's why we say support beyond finance. Join us. Thank you.
And my final thought is to the women. Yes. And my advice to you is, do not be afraid of debt. Do not be afraid of equity. Do not be afraid of growing your business. The LSETFW initiative is here. The money is here. Please apply. One thing I want to add is ensure that your business is properly structured. I have sat in so many interviews and seen all sorts. There are little mistakes. You don't have a corporate account. You're using your personal account as your business account. That's not good enough. You have to separate the two. I've sat in an interview with somebody that we wanted to give money to, and by the time we looked at the CAC document, we realized that her name was not on the document. And we asked her, Madam, you said that you own this business. Why isn't your name on this CAC document? And she said to us that her husband told her that the kind of registration that he did, they could only allow one name.
Video.
And it is just his name. Women, please be wise. There's nothing like that. Do your research. Ask questions. We have an open door policy. Walk into LSCTF and just say that. And we also have legal clinics. We bring in HR personnel. We bring in lawyers. We bring in accountants. You can come and schedule a meeting with any of these partners and have a one-on-one meeting with them to ensure that nobody is telling you rubbish. Thank you.
So thank you all.